Hello, everybody, and welcome on in. We are halfway through the NFL season as the trade deadline has just came and went. So, time to talk about 14 new games in the NFL. Before you do, I want to quickly say if you're new, subscribe would be greatly appreciated. Leave a like and then let me know your thoughts down below. Now, let's jump right into it. Thursday Night Football is an AFC West matchup between the Las Vegas Raiders and the Denver Broncos. The Broncos being 9.5-point favorites and wearing their throwbacks for this game. Now, Denver did not make any moves at the deadline, and I think that is fine. They didn't really need to, per se. They were obviously close, and you probably would have wished they added something to their offense. But the offense has still been playing fine for the most part this season. Main thing is just they need consistency out of the offense. And again, the Raiders is a good time to start building that consistency. Now, Vegas, they traded away Jacoby Myers at the deadline to Jacksonville. And it's clear that the Raiders are just not in a really great spot this year. Myers has been wanting out since before the season started, so it's a better late than never type of thing. At least they got something in return. But this game is in Denver, wearing the throwbacks. I don't really see how it's a too close of a matchup, though it is Thursday Night Football and weird things happen on Thursday night. I still have the Broncos winning this game just fine. Their defense being the massive, controlling part of this team right now is really impressive, and they're doing a great job with it. And the offense, they need that consistency to be built. Why not do it against the Raiders? Is a good time to have the consistency be built. And I think that they're going to be able to do it just fine. To have a great offense when it's all clicking. Why not have it click in today and have it and build off of that going forward to the second half of the season? So I have the Broncos winning. The NFL goes international as the Berlin game is this week. It's between the Atlanta Falcons and the Indianapolis Colts. The Falcons did not make a lot of moves at the deadline, didn't make any moves at the deadline. And again, I think that's fine for the spot that they're in as a team, which is they're a pretty middle of the road team. They weren't really going to be massive buyers or massive sellers. They're going to make most of their big time moves in the offseason, which is fair. Michael Penix and Drake London being back next week definitely helped out that offense. But they're going to have a pretty tough matchup going against this Colts defense that added Sauce Gardner at the trade deadline. And that is a massive all in move for the Colts. They traded away 2 first round picks and Adonai Mitchell to make that trade happen. So this is really the Colts saying, we see the team we are this year, and we believe we can win it all this year. We needed to make an all-in push, and I think they are going to benefit from that. The Colts are 6.5-point favorites in this game. I have them winning this game, and mainly because the confidence that they're going to gain by bringing in Sauce Gardner, especially from the offense after the tough week they just had, is going to definitely help out. They had a very tough week, but the Colts went out and made a move that says we have the confidence in you, Daniel Jones, and in this offense to be able to win it all this season. And we are kind of banking on it because that next year first round pick might be pretty valuable if things go south for Indianapolis. But I think in terms of this season, the Colts are really shaken up to be true contenders, and this is going to be a good bounce back week after the tough loss. So I have the Colts winning. The New York Giants are traveling to the Chicago Bears this week, with the Bears being 3.5-point favorites in this game. And the Giants had a tough loss to the 49ers last week. They didn't make any moves at the deadline, which makes sense as they have most of their key pieces already on the roster with Jackson Dart and with Scadaboo and Malik Neighbors when they get back next season. But the Giants, because of the injuries they have dealt with this year, are not in a spot to really do anything in terms of changing up the roster. So they kept pat, and they're heading to Chicago this week. The Bears coming off of that really, really close win against the Bengals in a game that the offense played fantastic, but the defense was non-existent. I think they're definitely gonna play a lot better in this game. The Giants do not have the same weapons that Cincy has. I have the Bears winning this game just fine. If the offense can play up to that same level again, I think you're looking really nice there in Chicago because you want to see the offense really hit their stride. Even though you might not be looking at this season as they win it all year, you still have next year and in 2 years' time. They could definitely be a somewhat of a contender. And just you want to see more from this offense that you saw last week. Hopefully the defense plays better, and I think they will against, an injured riddled Giants team. So I have the Chicago Bears winning. The Buffalo Bills at 9.5-point favorites are traveling to the Miami Dolphins this week. And it's gonna be an ugly game. I'm not gonna shy away from it. The Bills are 9.5-point favorites, and they deserve to be. This is more so me thinking that Miami in a divisional game might have a chance to cover. But both teams are in very different directions. The Bills, after that great win against the Chiefs, there is really no excuses for them to not make the Super Bowl this season. They have tiebreakers over the Chiefs and Ravens. and they're a half game out from the first place in the division. This really is a, if not this year, then when for Buffalo. And I could see the offseason being very interesting in Buffalo, depending on how the season turns out. But for this week specifically, playing the Miami Dolphins, who the only deadline move they made was trading away Jalen Phillips. So they still have most of this core remaining in terms of now they're going to evaluate it even more to the extent that they can evaluate it too. So with that, again, have the Miami Dolphins winning. I am a Dolphins fan, and more so, this is me. I have in Miami to cover than anything. But the Dolphins now are in a weird spot where they need to figure out what their team's gonna look like next year. They don't have a GM yet, and their next however many weeks is gonna be pretty much audition tape for that next GM. So I think Miami's going to be coming out here and wanting to play well with this little bit newfound confidence. So I have the Dolphins to cover, I'll say. The Baltimore Ravens at 4.5-point favorites are making the trip to Minnesota this week, and this game is going to be very interesting. Lamar Jackson, in his second game back from injury, he looked really good against Miami on Thursday Night Football. But to be fair, he always looks good against the Dolphins. Meanwhile, the Vikings, coming off of that great win against the Lions, JJ McCarthy played well in that game, as did their defense. The Baltimore Ravens made one move at the deadline, and that was acquiring Draymond Jones from the Tennessee Titans. So they add on to this defense that has definitely needed help this season. I'm not sure exactly to what degree this is going to help the defense, but anytime you can add a really solid piece like that, you're going to do it when you still feel like you can be a competitive team this year. They're not that far out from the division at this point, and they still easily could win it with matchups against the Steelers still to play. The Vikings, looking kind of at this season in a weird spot after how it began. Slow start, but that win against the Lions is definitely going to help them to an extent in the rest of the way. They are last place in the NFC North. This game is interesting. I do have the Ravens winning this game, though. Lamar Jackson he played too well last week for me not to think he can play to a similar degree. And it's tough for me to believe that this Ravens team is going to go down without a fight this season. And these are the type of games they're going to need to win to make some of the other games later in the season mean more. So I have the Ravens winning this game. The Cleveland Browns are 2.5-point favorites traveling to the New York Jets. And I would not be surprised if this line has changed since I last looked at it, because the Jets made two pretty big moves at the deadline. One of which was trading away Sauce Gardner to Indianapolis, and the other was trading away Quinnen Williams to Dallas, and in return they got a first-round pick and Mazi Smith, tack on a second this year with that as well. So the Jets are definitely committing to this tank that they are on and looking towards a rebuild. Cleveland, I don't know what exactly the stage of the franchise that Cleveland is in. They're in a weird spot. Dillon Gabriel is set to start again. We're curious to see how much longer his leash is going to be this season. But if there is any week for Dillon Gabriel to have a really solid week and kind of extend that leash a bit, this is that week. I have the Cleveland Browns winning this game. Their defense is going to play a massive factor in this one. I'm not sure who the Jets' starting quarterback is going to be, but I don't think it would really matter. This is a Jets team that has looked really rough this season offensively and defensively, even before trading away two very key defensive players. But this is a Browns offense that at times has looked solid this year. So they just need a half-decent performance from the offense and the defense to keep playing like they always have, and they'll be fine. So I have the Browns winning this game. The New England Patriots are traveling to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this week, with the Buccaneers being 2.5-point favorites. Neither team made moves at the deadline, which makes sense. The NFL deadline is not always the most exciting deadline out there. The New England Patriots have looked really well on this win streak that they are on, and Drake May's been playing really well. The offense as a whole has been playing well. The defense is playing to a high level. This is a New England team that is ahead of schedule when I expected them this season, and it is a fun team to watch, I will admit. Tampa, coming off of their bye week, they have one main question, and that is Chris Godwin and Bucky Irvin going to be back this week? Their status currently is up in the air. I think ideally you would want them back, but it's the same way. This is still an offense that has played well in their absence. But the sooner they get back, the better it is for this offense, because at some point you're going to need those extra weapons. I do still have Tampa winning this game. I think this game being in Tampa is going to be a little bit tougher for New England. But as well as they have been playing, this is a different matchup than what we've seen from them in the past few weeks. They had that great game against Buffalo, but it's a divisional matchup. Those are always going to be very close games, especially between the Bills and the Patriots. but going to a top-tiered NFC team, this is going to be a great test for the Patriots. And I'm very curious to see how they're going to play in it. But at the end of the day, I do think Tampa will come out on top. The New Orleans Saints are traveling to the Carolina Panthers this week, the Panthers being 5.5-point favorites. And while the Panthers did not make a move at the deadline, the New Orleans Saints did. They traded away Rashid Shaheed. He is now over in Seattle, and we'll talk about more when we get to Seattle's game this week. But Carolina is a team that is sitting at 5-4, and they are a sneaky team in that NFC. There is a world where they can sneak into the playoffs this season if things go right for them. And a win against the Saints is going to help set that ship towards the right direction. The Saints, I've talked about at length this season of how much they're not a good team, and that their offseason is going to be a massive shakeup for this team, or at least it should be, because their quarterback room is rough. Tyler Shuck played fine against the Rams, but it was nothing special. They're going against a Carolina team that has played really tough opponents really well this season. And the fact it's in Carolina, a place that the Panthers like to play in, I have the Panthers winning this game. I'm really excited to see what the Panthers have in store this week after that great win against the Packers last week, game of which the defense was on full display and the offense looked kind of rough, but it was Bryce Young's first game back after missing the week prior. So now that he has that game under his belt, he's playing a much easier opponent in this Saints defense. Going to be a really fun game to watch if you're a Panthers fan, so I do have Carolina winning this game. The Jacksonville Jaguars are traveling to the Houston Texans this week, a game of which the Texans are a 1.5-point favorite, at least from the last time I saw this. An AFC South matchup that is very crucial for how these two teams are going to see the rest of the season. Both teams trying to catch up with the Colts in the divisional race. Houston trying to claw their way back into it. Jacksonville trying to maintain ground. The Jaguars brought in Jakobi Meyers at the trade deadline to get another piece for Trevor Lawrence after the Travis Hunter injury. And Houston, they're dealing with injuries of their own. CJ Stroud is most likely going to miss this game, meaning it's Davis Mills behind center. And that does change who I think will win this game. I have the Jacksonville Jaguars winning now after seeing that CJ Stroud is most likely to miss. And the thing is, I think Davis Mills can be a serviceable backup and win you a game or two. But in a divisional matchup is always a tough matchup. And Davis Mills, I just think is going to be kind of in a deer in the headlights like he was last week against Denver's defense. And yes, Jacksonville and Denver's defense are two completely different defenses in terms of just caliber of defense. But still, it's a very tough matchup for Davis Mills to step into and win with. I still think he can be a serviceable backup, but this is not the type of matchup you would want him to have to play in. So I do have the Jaguars winning with your new addition. The Arizona Cardinals are traveling to the Seattle Seahawks this week, with the Seahawks being 6.5-point favorites. Arizona looked surprisingly good with Jacoby Brissett behind center last week against Dallas. That was a pretty dominant win for them in all things considered, and they're going to keep Jacoby Brissett behind center for the foreseeable future. He is the new starter over there in Arizona. And a matchup against Seattle is going to be an interesting one. The Seahawks just brought in Rashid Shaheed, so another weapon for this offense that played incredible against the Commanders last week. I do have the Seahawks winning this game. Probably should not be a surprise to anyone. Seattle this year has thoroughly surprised me, and they're continuing to play some really dominant football, bringing in Rashid Shaheed and just the type of receiver weapon that he can be for them. But more so probably going to be used as a return man to some degree as well. He did that for the Saints during his time there. I think Seattle is going to get a different facet of their offense, kind of into Gage now with Shaheed being there. I think that's going to help them really potentially go the distance in the NFC. So I have the Seahawks winning this game. The Los Angeles Rams at 3.5-point favorites are traveling to the San Francisco 49ers this week. Neither team made moves at the deadline, and the 49ers continue to get hit with the injury bug. Michael Williams is now down and most likely out for the season. And this 49ers team, they just cannot stay healthy. They're constantly missing pieces each and every week. I believe it's still Mac Jones being the start over there for San Francisco and going against that Rams defense. He looked really well against them on Thursday Night Football a few weeks back in LA. But this is a different Rams team from when these two teams played about a month ago at this point. The Rams looked really good last week. It was against the Saints, but still they looked really good. The defense seems to be in full display now, and the offense, that connection between Stafford and Nakua and Stafford and Devontae Adams and just the trio that they have is seemingly coming to life a bit more. I have the Rams winning this game. They're gonna be looking for revenge for that Thursday Night Football loss. This is a very key matchup in this division as well. All around, though, this is a game that the Rams are currently more so built to win than the 49ers are because of the injuries that they have over there. So I do have the Rams getting the revenge and winning this game. The Detroit Lions at 8.5-point favorites are traveling to the nation's capital to play the Washington Commanders. And the Lions looking to bounce back after that very tough loss to the Vikings last week. Jahmyr Gibbs did not play well in that game. The ground game as a whole did not play well in that one. But the defense and the offense still had their moments in it. And they're going against a Washington team that's going to be without Jaden Daniels for the foreseeable future. And that is a massive blow to that Commanders team that already with Daniels playing did not look the greatest against Seattle or even the week prior against Kansas City. And is a defense that has been giving up quite a bit, especially through the air. Seattle did not have an incompletion until the third quarter last week. Now going against a Detroit offense that is very arguably better than Seattle is, at least in this season. There's still a world where I can see the argument where they're about even or Seattle being a bit better. But this Lions offense, when it's fully clicking, is one of the best offenses in the league. So I do have the Lions winning this game, getting that very key bounce back win. And if things go right in some of these later games, this could be a massive turning point in the NFC North. And if the Lions can just handle business and get a win they're supposed to, they're going to be sitting even better than they were entering this week. I do think the Lions have the roster to be able to do that, so give me the Lions to win. Sunday Night Football, the Pittsburgh Steelers are traveling to the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers are 3-point favorites in this game. Both teams coming off of wins last week against an AFC South team, but kind of different wins. The Chargers, yes, for as dominant as they played in that game, it was a 7-point win and one that the special teams gave up a punt return touchdown. They threw a pick six. Wasn't the cleanest of games, but it was still a pretty nice win. Meanwhile, the Steelers had a really dominant win against the Colts in what was also a 7-point game. But that one was definitely more so dominant. The defense forced 6 turnovers. The offense, they scored points off of those turnovers. It did well enough. This is a very, very good game that can really shake up the top spots of the AFC. I do have the Steelers winning this game. The biggest reason for that is the defensive performance we saw last week against the Colts. I don't think they're going to force 6 turnovers again this week. Don't get me wrong there. But I think the fact that the defense found massive life in that game against the Colts, they're going to be able to carry that the rest of the way and keep up these really nice defensive performances. And doing that against a Chargers team that has really struggled against the ground, meaning they can really focus against the pass. I think the Steelers are really shaping up to have a really nice game once again. The only question is going to be the offense, but that'll be decided on Sunday night. I do have the Steelers winning this game nonetheless. Week 10 wraps up with the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are 2.5-point favorites in this game. The Eagles are coming off of their bye week, and before the bye, they had a really nice game on the ground with Saquon Barkley and a really nice game through the air with A.J. Brown in that entire passing game in 2 different weeks. Now, the hope is, traveling to Green Bay, can they get those pieces fully together? The Packers, they're going to be in a very rough spot with this game. Someone's going to need to step up this week if they're going to be able to win and keep their spot in the NFC North. Tucker Kraft is out for the season with an injury. Matthew Golden's status is up in the air. This is going to be a very nice test for the Packers offense. They had a really rough game against the Panthers last week. I still think their defense is going to play pretty well in this game. So it's more so just how are the Packers offense going to play and what style of consistency we're going to get from the Eagles offense. I'm going to pick the Eagles to win this game. I think the Packers offense is just too big of a question mark for this week for me to pick the Packers to win. Otherwise, I probably would have if Tucker Kraft did not get hurt last week. But his injury is a massive blow to the offense. And I just need to see them have someone step up before I can put full faith back into them like I've had the past few weeks. So give me the Eagles to wrap up Week 10 with a win. Well, there you have it. My full thoughts on Week 10 of the NFL season, all 14 games. I appreciate everyone stopping by. See you all next time. Have yourselves a damn good one. Peace.